Thanks for being with us here on Court TV Live this Monday morning. I'm your host, Julie Grant. So this hour, we're covering some brand new developments in the murder case of 16-year-old Mia Campos. Jesus Monroy is accused of murdering Campos, who was a pregnant teenage mother of his unborn child. He appeared in front of a judge last Friday for a probable cause hearing. And before we get to the hearing, we want to get you caught up on the case. Here's Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald.
16-year-old Mia Campos was 7 months pregnant and looking forward to the arrival of her son Sebastian.
She was a happy girl. She was always happy, always dancing. She loved music, she loved dance. She was everything. Happy all the time.
After spending Sunday, July 14th, shopping with her family for her baby shower, Ring doorbell video shows Mia leaving home at 10:31 p.m. According to her family, she was picked up by her baby's father, 20-year-old Jesus Monroy.
She told me that she was going to go with him to Quick Trip, which was a normal thing. They would always go somewhere. They would go eat or they would go to the appointments. But for some reason, before she left, I had kind of a bad feeling.
When Mia didn't return and wasn't answering her phone, her parents used an app to track her location.
And that's how we knew that she was here somewhere. So he came to the house and said, hey, my app says it's just right here around the corner. So and it's like, the last time that he moved, it was probably around 10:58. So, and after that, that's when we started looking for her. And that's when we called Jesus. She was with him. She said no, that I was at the house. I haven't talked to her. I haven't seen her since Saturday morning. He came with his father and said, like, well, if Mia, she's not with you, so where is she? I said, well, I don't know.
This is where that app led them, to this patch of woods, about 1.5 miles from Mia's home. Mia's parents, along with Jesus and his father, followed this path, and together they discovered Mia right here, lying face down.
When we found her, my heart dropped. It wasn't what I was expecting. And I carry a lot of guilt because I was the last one who saw her. And if I knew, I would have, could have, and I should have stopped her from leaving. But since it was such a normal thing, I didn't.
What did you think of his behavior at the scene?
It was a little odd. He didn't show much emotion.
As the detectives, crime scene techs, and medical examiner arrived, Alexis was sitting next to Jesus on the side of the road.
And the first thing he told me was, do me a favor, don't tell them that I'm the one that got Mia pregnant, that I'm the father of the son. And the first thing I told him was, that's not important right now. This is more important. And I told him he's really ignorant for thinking that instead of being more worried about Mia and his son.
What would you say to Jesus if you could talk to him now?
Why? Why he did it? What was the reason? And why he was never man enough to just tell my dad that I didn't want to be a part of Mia's life. Why take my baby sister, my best friend, my other half away from us?
Jesus Monroy told police that he didn't even see Mia that night. The arrest warrant, though, accuses him of luring her to the end of her neighborhood, where he caused her death by asphyxiation. He's now facing charges of malice murder, felony murder, feticide, and aggravated assault.
Now, on Friday, Jesus Monroy appeared in front of a judge for the first time since he was arrested last month. The 20-year-old entered a packed courtroom just north of Atlanta, with Mia Campos' family also in attendance. Now, a judge heard testimony. This had to do with whether the state has enough evidence to bind the defendant over for trial, whether there's enough evidence from which a jury could find either way in his case. And so we're going to show you that probable cause hearing. It was a fascinating hearing, and you're going to hear now a detective describing what happened as soon as he arrived at that crime scene. Take a look.
So on July 15th of this year, 2024, at around 1:57 a.m., I was called out to a person dead call in the area of 3610 Stevens Road. I was advised initially that Mr. Edward Campos and his family had last seen their daughter, Mia Campos, who was 16 years old, roughly 7 months pregnant at the time, that she had left her home around 10:30 p.m. and had not returned. They stated that they contacted additional friends and family and began to search for her. Using the Life 360 app, they were able to find her location, which placed her in the wood line just outside of their neighborhood near 3610 Stevens Road, where Jesus, the presumed father of the unborn child, had located Mia's body. She was declared deceased at the scene. And that's the information I learned prior to arriving to the scene. So once I got to the scene, I spoke with officers who were on scene as well as family and friends. I conducted interviews, and I spoke with medical investigator Johnson. At the time, there were no signs of external trauma or no signs of specific injury to Mia's body, so it was undetermined on scene what could have potentially been the cause of her death. I did interviews with Mr. Edward Campos, Joshua Hernandez, and Jesus Monroy while on scene. Mr. Campos provided me the same basic initial statements as I previously stated. He arrived home from out of town. Mia was not home at the time. Family said she left around 10:30, and there was footage of it, and that they haven't been able to get in contact with her since. He did state that Mia had advised her brother and a friend of hers that she was going to meet with Jesus, who's seated to my left in the green jumpsuit next to his attorney.
Your Honor, if the record reflects the witness has identified the defendant. Okay.
And she said she was going to meet with him to go to Quick Trip. I then interviewed Mr. Joshua, who basically advised me the same thing. He was contacted by the family stating they couldn't locate Mia. He began to contact her himself, did not get a response. And then he also told me that he had received a message from another one of Mia's friends named Jordan Iza, in which she told Joshua that Mia had contacted her and said she was going to meet with Jesus that night, and that the last message she received from Mia was her stating that she was scared.
Okay.
Joshua went on to tell me that he didn't believe Jesus had anything to do with the situation, just due to what he knew about Jesus and Mia, and he didn't see any foul play, at that moment in time. I then interviewed Jesus, who provided me with similar information. He stated he was home alone the entire day at his residence. He stated he had never left his house that day, and he had not seen me in person at all that day. He stated the last communication he had with her was via text message that ended around 8 p.m. that night, July 14th. And he stated after that he had not heard from her again until his family advised them that they were looking for Mia and she wasn't answering and wasn't returning. He said he then left with his father to go meet with Mia's family and look for her, and he ultimately located her.
What happened after you spoke with the defendant? What did you do next?
So following that, once the scene was kind of wrapped up, the medical examiner obviously took possession of Mia's body. Uniform Patrol was able to obtain Mia's cell phone. Joshua was able to provide her phone passcode, and her parents advised they wanted us to take her cell phone and see what we could find on it.
Oh, we're going to hear more from the detective. Let's bring in now someone who was there at this hearing, covering it for us, Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald, who also came on the show to talk to us about that interview you did with Mia's family. You know so much about this case. Thank you for coming on the show this morning. I'm so excited to get to pick your brain about this and really dig in. So, Barbara, in terms of what happened, first witness up, this detective, is he the lead? Is he the...
He is the lead detective.
Okay.
He's the one that was out at the scene the night that everything happened. He spoke to Jesus at the crime scene. He also made the arrest, brought Jesus in several days later for more questioning, which is when they started the arrest process. Initially, he was charged with lying to police for saying that he wasn't with her when the phone data showed that he was. And so, yeah, he's the only person who testified on Friday at this hearing, and he testified for about an hour. So we learned a few more details about what exactly happened that night that we didn't know previously.
Ooh, okay. So this is important. And I appreciate the reminder where you said initially it was just lying to police, right?
Correct.
So was it the lie that led to investigators really zeroing in on him even more?
I think they probably had some fingers pointed at him from the beginning. Mia's father was on to Jesus. He was never a fan of Jesus from the very beginning. And if you recall, he actually wanted to file statutory rape charges against Jesus when he found out that Mia was pregnant, because she was 15 at the time, and Jesus was 18 at the time, almost 19. He's now, I believe, 20. And so the parents already didn't have a great opinion of Jesus.
Sure.
They didn't see anything during the course of Mia trying to keep him in her life, to be a part of the baby's life. She wanted to do that. Her family was willing to let her do that, but they were not fans.
Right.
So I think immediately the father was like, this isn't right.
Yes, and I remember you telling us that when we did our first deep dive into this case. Correct me if I'm wrong, Barbara, I seem to remember, did her dad tell you, as you were concluding the interview, that he was going to look into now whether or not charges could even be applied in that regard?
He has looked into that, and he said that there's some issues with the county. This murder happened in Gwinnett County. He was told that the statutory rape incident happened in Gwinnett County. There's some evidence that perhaps it didn't. So there are a couple of counties that are looking at it.
Okay.
He's been assured that if there is anything there to charge, that they will add those charges. The other thing he's now looking to do is file a civil suit against wrongful death.
Oh, wow.
Against Jesus's family. So that could be the next development.
Sure, and not surprising. As you know, Barbara, we see that commonly in cases, you know, that they will kind of run parallel with one another. Barbara McDonald, so many more questions we have for you. Stand by, please. We're going to hit our first break of the hour. When we come back, we're going to hear more from that lead detective who talks about what happened when Jesus Monroy was confronted with the evidence against him in the murder of the mother of his unborn child, Mia Campos.
Did you know that in middle-income communities, there are about 13 books for every child?
But in some underserved communities,
There's only one book for every 300 children.
Studies show that having lots of books at home is one of the best ways to help a child succeed in school and beyond.
that's why the Scripps Howard Fund started the If You Give a Child a Book campaign to give books to children who need them most, like me.
So please, if you could give a child a book today.
Just scan the QR code. We would be so grateful.
Thanks for being with us on this Monday morning. I'm Julie Grant. This morning, we're bringing you the probable cause hearing of defendant Jesus Monroy. So this young man is accused in the murder of Mia Campos, who was carrying his unborn baby. Now, he appeared in court last week in Gwinnett County, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. Let's take a listen together to the case. Detective described Mia's autopsy and also his follow-up interview that he did with the suspect.
After locating those messages, I had the autopsy conducted by Gwinnett Medical Examiner Dr. Terry on the 16th. Dr. Terry ruled Mia's death a homicide due to asphyxiation based on compression of the throat. Dr. Terry also provided me with preliminary information telling me that the baby, who was close to 7 months, was healthy and would have survived if it was not for the death of the mother, basically stating the baby was viable and was in good health condition and was on par with where it should have been for that age frame. I conducted a canvass shortly after, which is based on the ring footage of Mia leaving her residence It was thought that she may have been picked up in a vehicle in front of her house, but further video obtained from across the street in her neighborhood showed that she did not, in fact, get picked up in front of her house, but she actually walked up the street, which was kind of confirming the message conversation between her and Jesus. I then had a follow-up interview with Jesus, where I called him and asked him to meet with me at Gwinnett County Police Headquarters, and he did. This interview was audio and video recorded. Started off with me reading Jesus' Miranda rights and him agreeing to speak with myself and Detective Daniel. During this interview, Jesus was asked about what happened. He provided similar information to what he originally provided on scene, but ultimately, when confronted with the messages and the newfound evidence regarding Mia's death, he denied sending the messages, although he did admit to having his phone on him the entirety of that day, being home alone at his residence, nobody else having access to his cell phone or being able to send any messages from his cell phone. He still denied sending any messages, leaving his residence that day, or communicating in any way with Mia physically or digitally after 8 p.m. During that interview, I seized Jesus' cell phone. I later obtained a search warrant for Jesus' cell phone for the download of his contents. I also submitted multiple court orders to include a carpenter warrant for his location information. After obtaining the cell phone download, I was able to get location data from that cell phone. The location data that I obtained showed that on the 14th, the day of Mia's and the unborn child's passing, Jesus' cell phone showed that he was not in fact at home, but he left his residence that night around 10:19. The coordinates place Jesus near the intersection of Lenore Road and Lenore Church Road, which is just outside of his residence. And I'm just providing a couple of these coordinates for reference. There's a lot of them. At 10:30, it placed him at the intersection of Stevens Road and Rosebud Road, which is just prior to reaching Mia's neighborhood. At 10:32 p.m., it placed him just outside of Mia's neighborhood, on Stevens Road near Burning Bush Drive being the street of where her residence is located. And at 11:09 p.m., they placed him in the woods at the intersection of Stevens Road and Rosebud Road, which appeared to be in the exact same spot where her body was later located later that night. I also downloaded Mia's phone along with Jesus's, and with the download of both phones, I was able to obtain the messages that were deleted, that did not appear on his physical phone or on Mia's physical phone outside of the screen recording. The message conversation between them was extracted in the download, although previously deleted, and it did show that from his phone that the messages were sent to her, and him receiving her messages, and vice versa.
I just wanted to go over a couple things with you, and I'll start kind of where you left off. You had stated that, I think it was July 17th, my client came to the Gwinnett County Police Department headquarters for an interview with you.
Let me just double check that date. I apologize.
And may I ask what it is that you're looking at to double check that?
I'm just looking at my notes. I believe it was July 16th, that's my error.
The 16th?
Correct.
Okay. So July 16th, and did he come up voluntarily to the police department, or did you have to go and get him and take him back to the police department?
He did come voluntarily.
Okay. Did anybody come with him?
His brother, Enrique.
Was he interviewed as well?
He was.
Okay. And did you interview his brother, or did some other detective?
I did.
Okay. What did his brother do?
His brother basically mentioned, I asked him if he was with Jesus at all at that point. He stated he was earlier in the day, He stated he had left to go to a pool nearby at some point throughout that night. He said Jesus contacted him, asking him where he was, and he told him he was at the pool and sent him a location of where he was, and that Jesus told him he was on the way to him. And then he told Jesus that he wasn't going to be there much longer, and Jesus told him, okay, well, I'm going to go back home. So he was questioned about that.
Okay. So after, it's at that interview, if I understood your testimony, at the conclusion of that interview with my client, you made the decision to arrest him for false statements.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the basis of the false statements arrest was that, and if I'm wrong, you correct me, but it was that he had told you he had not messaged with Mia Campos, the alleged victim, that evening, and you had found information that he had.
Correct. He stated he had not communicated with her at any point in time after 8 p.m.
Okay. Other than, I guess, at 11 or so, you had found text messages where he was asking where she was and if she was okay.
Correct.
Okay. When did you find, just so I can get an understanding of the timing, those messages, you had testified that you were able to extract my client's phone. You did a forensic, not you, but the police department did a forensic extraction of my client's phone and were able to recover those deleted messages?
Yes.
When did that occur?
I don't have the exact date on the top of my head.
Let me ask you, was it before or after you arrested Mr. Monroy for false statements?
It was after the fact.
After. Because you seized his phone upon arresting him there at the police department.
Correct.
So you had gone through Ms. Campos' phone and prior to that, but had not found any of the messages other than the screen recording from the phone that showed these text messages that may have been on the phones. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So was it based on simply the screen recording that you found on her phone that looked like it was text messages between my client and Ms. Campos that you based the false statements arrest on?
Yeah, that along with the third-party statements of people saying that she had told them prior to leaving she was going to meet with Jesus. That compiled with the text messages located on her phone, that kind of confirming that's kind of what led to the warrant. So.
Okay. So the family, her family and friends told you during your interviews that she told them she was going to go meet with my client?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that those same individuals gave statements to the news media outlets for saying that they...
Can I object, Your Honor? Relevancy, I think we're getting outside the scope of probable cause.
There are a little bit. I mean, I can understand your client's entitled to know the basis for the false statements warrant, but we're getting a little, for lack of a more eloquent way to say it, suppressing.
Understood, Judge.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of latitude, but asking about the news statements, I can't determine credibility at a preliminary hearing, so I agree with the state on that particular question.
Oh, and there's more to come. Still ahead, the detective continues outlining the initial investigation steps in the death of beautiful Mia Campos. Then he's on cross with Jesus Monroy's attorney about some other issues in this case. We thank you for watching Court TV Live. We are your front row seat to justice.
Special offer.
It is great to have you with us on this Monday morning. Welcome back. I'm Julie Grant. We are diving deep into a case in Georgia that's captivated eyes all around the world. The death of 16-year-old Mia Campos. She was a pregnant teenager who was nearly 2 months away from becoming a first-time mom, and she was so excited. But tragically, her life was cut short. Police found her dead in a wooded area near Atlanta last month. And now the suspected father of her unborn baby is accused in her murder. Police say that Jesus Monroy lured her out to the entrance of her neighborhood before taking her life. Now let's go back into the Georgia courtroom. We're watching the probable cause hearing. This is a hearing to make sure there's enough evidence to send the case up to the higher court for trial. We've got the lead detective on the stand, and now there's some more cross coming his way.
You arrived on scene. You spoke to Ms. Campos's father, Edward Campos. You said you spoke to the medical examiner, investigator. You spoke to my client and to Joshua. And what was his last name? I just couldn't recall.
I believe it was Hernandez.
Okay. Those four individuals are the only folks that you spoke to there on scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you testified previously that my client discovered, you had learned on your way to the scene before you got there that my client had discovered Ms. Campos's body. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And did you ask anybody there on scene or my client who had found Ms. Campos's body?
Yes, Jesus stated he did.
That he had found the body?
Correct. In both of my interviews with him.
Okay. Who all was searching for Ms. Campos out there that night?
Mr. Edward Campos, Jesus, I believe Joshua, if I'm not mistaken, and there may have been additional parties, but I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay. Do you know if her mother was out there or her brother or sister?
Whose?
Ms. Campos's.
Yes. I don't believe they assisted in the search, but I don't recall off the top of my head.
I understand. And my client's father was also out there?
Yes.
Was he assisting in the search as well?
I don't recall.
Okay. But other than those four people, all the other people, if they were searching for her or not, you did not speak to them that evening?
Correct.
Okay. After you took her phone, you took her phone back to the police department. Did the police department folks forensically extract her phone and you view it, or did you just look through it like a normal phone?
CSI took her phone back in both. I looked through it normally and it was extracted as well.
Okay. And when you looked at it and through the forensic extraction, you did not find the messages between her and my client at that time? Other than the screen recording, I'm sorry, I should clarify that. Other than the screen recording that she took of her on her phone, did you find any evidence that my client had messaged with her?
Yes, it came back in the extraction of her phone.
Okay.
His messages appeared.
And when did you find those?
I can't tell you the exact date.
Was it before he was interviewed?
No.
Okay. But ultimately on the actual download of the cell phone, the examiners were able to recover these same messages that were on the screen recording?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever look on the phone to see whether there were other messages between Ms. Campos and my client that were similar, where he had asked her to delete messages or anything like that?
I can't recall off the top of my head.
Well, whether they exist or whether you look for them?
Either way.
Okay, understood. When you got there to the scene, where was Ms. Campos's body?
By the time I arrived on scene, it had already been moved, so it was near the sidewalk.
Okay. And do you know how her body ended up getting to the sidewalk from wherever it originally was?
Yes, Mr. Edward Campos, her father, and Jesus Monroy picked her up and moved her to the side.
Okay, so where was her body at before they moved it, if you know?
Inside of the woods.
Were you ever able to determine, did you ask them to take you to where they actually, the exact spot they found her body?
Yes, I just don't have a way to describe that.
Okay, I understand, but you were able to observe that at some point?
Yes.
Okay. How far from where her body was at, how far was it moved?
I'm not a good judge of distance, I can't really say, but it wasn't too far.
Okay, so we can ballpark it. Are we talking 10 feet, 15 feet? Are we talking 100 yards?
Less than 100 yards.
Okay. And then, but my client and her father were the two that moved the body?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you said that both you and the medical examiner's investigator there on scene were not able to observe any signs of an obvious cause of death, any physical signs of trauma to her body at that time?
Correct. That's what I was given by the medical examiner investigator on scene at the time.
Okay. So there were no bruising to her neck or anywhere else on her body that would be indicative of a physical assault?
Based on what I was told is kind of what I stated. As far as what he documented, I'm not sure. But also there were no clear signs at that point.
Understood. Did you or crime scene investigations, the medical examiner's office, anybody look for, take any swabbings of Ms. Campos's body for signs of DNA from another person or any trace evidence that might be on her body from her assailant?
Yes, I believe crime scene did, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you have any results or indication if anything was found?
At this time, I have no results. No.
Okay.
All right, let's dig in now together. What questions do you have about this case? I've got our resident expert here at Court TV, senior producer Barbara McDonald, on this case for us. She was there in the hearing, has followed this case since its inception, and wanted to dig in with you, please, Barbara, about something that we talked about before. Remember how initially in the reporting there was some confusion about who Mia might have left with, and now it seems like after this testimony, now we understand why it wasn't certain initially that it was Jesus. What, he made her walk
to the end of the neighborhood? Yeah, and her family had a Ring doorbell, but they also have a lot of trees in their front yard, so it obscures the road.
Okay.
So their own Ring video didn't show her getting into a car or anything like that. But a neighbor's camera did pick her up walking. And those deleted messages that the detective mentioned, in it, he tells her, come to the end of your road, I'll pick you up there. And then as she's making that walk, he texts her and says, delete these messages talking about this meeting. And she was savvy enough to screenshot those text messages before she deleted them.
Wow.
So when they got her phone, they were able to very quickly see this screenshot on her phone of these deleted messages. So there was a lot of evidence pointing at him. Even though he had taken steps, it appears, to try to obscure his involvement with her in those hours, there does seem to be a lot of evidence on the phones indicating that he was trying to meet up with her. He did, in fact, meet up with her.
Right. Oh, Barbara, I have chills as soon as you said that. So Mia Campos was smart enough and perhaps scared enough,
yes,
to screenshot those so that she had a record of what he said for her to do.
The other thing, yeah, the other horrible thing we learned in this is her last text message. As she's making that walk, she texts her girlfriend, I'm scared. And by the time the girlfriend responds, Mia's not responding. The family of Mia, when they started to realize on their end that she's not responding, we don't know where she is, she hasn't returned, they start looking for her. They call Jesus and say, we need you to help us look for her. And he sends her a text message saying, Mia, where are you? According to the detective's testimony, he sent that text message from the crime scene.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was still there.
Oh my gosh. Now that's chilling.
Yeah, and that's one of the elements that the prosecution is talking about as an element of malice murder, that he's luring her out to cause harm to her, that he's asking her to delete any evidence of him asking her to meet him, and then he sends her this message when he knows exactly what has happened to her. He sends a message, where are you?
Right. Oh my. He is in deep, deep trouble, and it's apparent he's fighting this. I mean, we can see how his attorney is asking lots of questions. He could just waive this, as you know, Barbara.
Right.
He could just say, you know what, I'm going to waive it. And a lot of times with high-profile cases, you see that.
Right.
Because, you know, this isn't the big fight. This is the little fight. And if you have a questionable case with not a lot of evidence, you may have a prelim, but this, I mean, wow.
Well, and on Wednesday, more evidence of his indication to fight, bond hearing. He wants to get out while he's defending himself.
Oh, please.
So based on what this judge said, now it'll be a different judge deciding that issue, but on this judge, she wasn't seeming to buy any of that.
I'm sure
and
not.
she felt there's plenty of probable cause for sure.
Wow. Barbara, thank you so much. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, the judge makes her decision whether there's enough evidence to hold Jesus Monroy over for trial.
Coming soon to Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Shame on you, Richard Allen.
It's scary just knowing that he was so close.
I promise you, I can't believe it was not intentional.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon, only on Court TV.
I'm in Loganville, Georgia, at the corner of Stevens Road and Rosebud Road. It's a pretty busy intersection, and right here on this corner is this patch of woods with a little trail that is fairly worn and comes right back in here into some pretty thick woods. A lot of plant life. And right over here is where the body of Mia Campos was found. At 1 o'clock in the morning, hours after she had gone missing.
That was the voice of our Court TV senior producer, Barbara McDonald, walking us through the case of beautiful 16-year-old Mia Campos. And on Friday, there was what's called a probable cause hearing in Gwinnett County, Georgia, for the man who's accused of murdering her. And this was a guy that she was involved with. He was a friend of one of her brothers. Jesus Monroy is his name, and he was said to be the father of Mia's unborn baby. She was so excited to be a mom. And there's some Ring doorbell video that shows her leaving the night that she never came back home. And police learned that it was Monroy who picked her up, but not in front of her house, made her walk to the edge of the street. And then she never returned home. And when asked to help in the search, Monroy police say pretended to help. Now let's hear the judge's decision on whether Monroy heads to trial.
I do find the state's met its burden on warrant number 24W12942, which is false statements, and warrant numbers 24W13345, 13346, 13347, and 13348, which are felony murder, feticide, and malice murder and aggravated assault.
All right, so he's heading on to trial. No surprise there. The charges are bound over this case held in little court, magistrate court. Now it goes up to big court, the court of common pleas, where he can choose to have the case in front of a judge or a jury. It's going to be up to him, and we're going to be there when the time comes. Barbara McDonald in the studio with us, there in the courtroom when you heard the judge make this decision. And you also got to talk to Mia's family. They know you. You actually went to their house previously. So I want to play. We have two clips where they spoke to you right after the judge made her decision.
He didn't want to be a daddy, or he was looking more into his future, because I mean he knew since the beginning, because back on those days, you know, he wanted for her to be an abortion. And my daughter said, no, I'm not going to kill my baby. I said, why should I kill my baby? And he didn't want the baby since the beginning. So I guess he was looking more into financial. I guess I'm going to put it that way.
For one side, I'm happy, but for the other side, I'm angry too, because I see him and I see that he will liar one more time, and he wants to play, and I don't like it. But only I want justice for my daughter and my grandson, because I can't see her anymore.
Oh, you can just feel the sadness in her eyes, can't you? Barbara, talking with them, I know they're very comfortable with you because you're so compassionate, and this has been tough. The tension in that courtroom, though, I know you felt it. Could we kind of talk about that? What was that like with all the family members gathered in the same tight quarters?
So there was about maybe 8 or 10 members of Mia's family and friends who were there, and at least 3 dozen people who were there for Jesus. And it was awkward, and it felt tense. You could tell that these two families have nothing at this point to say to each other. Jesus's family appears to be supporting him fully. Mia's family is supporting her and this baby fully. You know, one of the things I wanted to say about the comments from her parents, too, From the beginning, they have wanted Jesus to step up and be a man and take responsibility for the baby, for the pregnancy.
Sure.
He didn't do that. They want him to do that now. And it appears he's not going to do that now either. And that disappoints them greatly. They just want the right thing to happen. They've already lost their daughter. They've lost this grandchild that was going to arrive next month that they were so excited for. But yeah, that tension, you know, there was a victim's advocate there for Mia's family. She made sure to put herself between them and Jesus's family just to prevent, if possible, any kind of bad feelings on either side. There didn't appear to be any issues. The judge even commented how this was probably the best behaved audience she had ever had for a proceeding. She had asked everybody, as most judges do, not to say anything out loud, not to talk or react in any way, and nobody did. So while there was that tension, nothing came from that during this hearing anyway.
Thankfully. This is just, it's such a horribly tragic case, and you described that so perfectly, Barbara, how this family was so happy. Mia was so happy, and not only is her life gone, so is the life of her unborn child. So many more questions. Wednesday, he's back in court. We'll be talking more. I can't wait to talk with you more when he's got that bond hearing. Barbara McDonald, you are wonderful. Thank you for everything this morning.